Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about how you can automate your Django deployment using GitHub Actions. Automating your deployment is a very good practice in software development because you do not have to manually do a lot of things in your server. You can write your code, push it on your repository. In our case, we'll be using GitHub, and then run tests as well to make sure that the code is efficient enough to be served in the server, and then you deploy your code on your server. Everything can be done automatically.
Alright, so by the end of this tutorial, we're going to learn how to automate deployment using GitHub Actions. We're going to learn how to configure our Docker compose file and our Docker file, which will be needed in our deployment, because this deployment is going to be 100% containerized. Everything is going to be done inside Docker. We're going to learn how to configure our GitHub Actions and connect it to our server, so when there is a push on GitHub, it triggers GitHub Actions and our deployment is going to be automatically deployed to the server. Alright, we're going to learn how to configure our main.yaml file for that as well. We're going to set up our domain name in our DigitalOcean. Alright, then we'll learn how to configure our nginx file, because nginx is what is serving our Django application. We're going to learn how to configure our nginx file for our deployment. Alright, so we're going to configure nginx file to save our static and media files as well. So ideally, saving files in Django, you might use S3 buckets in AWS or Cloudinary or any other storage platform out there. But if you want your server to save static and media files, it's possible. You have to configure that using nginx. Alright, then finally we're going to configure SSL certificate with setbot. We don't have to go through the stress of doing it manually. Just SSL is going to be configured. Again, we're automating our deployment. So after configuring everything, writing our blocks of code, just one push to GitHub and everything should be done. Alright, so just one push to GitHub, your deployment should be successful, your code should be updated in your server, your SSL certificate should be done. You don't need to manually do that as well. So alright everyone, before we continue, I have written a tutorial on this already, so it would be easy for us to follow. Alright, so the prerequisite for this task is to have a VPS server. On my own end, I have an Ubuntu server with DigitalOcean. Alright, and you should have a minimum of 2 gig RAM, because GitHub Actions actually takes RAM, and if you have 1 gig RAM, it might get stuck on the deployment. Then you should have Docker and Docker Compose installed in your server as well, and you should have a GitHub account, of course, because we're using GitHub Actions. Then if you're interested in Let's Encrypt and SSL certificate, you need to connect your domain name to your server. Alright, I have connected mine on my own end. So if you should go to, this is DigitalOcean, and I got a 2 gig RAM Ubuntu server. When you have the console, you click here and click add domain. You want to add, just enter the domain name here and connect it to your server. But I have done that already. Also, you need to add your AA and AAA record. These are required for SSL certificates. Adding your AA records requires IPv6 address, so you can set that as well. A and AA address, but I have added that on my own part. So if you're interested in SSL certificate, these requirements need to be met. And of course, your name server, when connecting your domain name, you need to add your name server to wherever you got your domain name from. I got mine from kiwiweb.com. You can purchase a domain name there as well, hosting, email, cPanel, and all that. All right, let's proceed. I have a basic Django project already with models, book, name, author, description, image. I have a URL, just one URL. It's actually a very basic Django project to demonstrate what we're doing here. Then my media CDN for media files, my static, my template as well, just one template. Yeah, I have my settings file, and everything is just a basic Django project for what we need to do. All right, so the first thing we'll do from this tutorial is create a Docker file, docker compose.yaml, entry point.sh, and .env file. So in my main project, I would create a Docker file. All right. Okay, let me create everything at once. Finally, .env file, so we should be able to store environmental variables and other sensitive information with .env. All right, then start by creating Docker file and paste the following command in your Docker file. So I added comments on this. All right, so we're using Python 3.8. We're setting on Python buffer equals to 1. So if there's any message printed, we see it in real time. Then my Django settings is here, project.settings. So these are environmental variables we are setting. And this is my current working directory, creating the folder here and pointing this folder as my working directory. Then I copy all these codes. We're going to copy all these codes we are going to copy everything here in this our project folder inside our work directory. So that is the essence of this copy dot to this folder. Then we install requirement.txt. Then we have our entry point that we'll work on soon. We'll copy it as well and make it executable so that it can work. Then we expose the port and we run it. So that's it for the Docker file. Then in our entry point.sh, we are adding this. Okay, so we'll see that in a minute. Our entry point, before our service starts, we might want to do some things. In my case, I want to migrate and collect static, then use gunicorn to spin up the server. All right. For production, as usual, we use gunicorn for our production. Then this here is for our docker compose.yaml file. Okay, so okay, docker compose.yaml file, and we'll paste it here. All right, so this is our docker compose file. We have three services. We have the web, we have the DB, which is our database, and we have the Nginx service. So this is our web service. It contains our container name is Django Nginx app. You can change it to whatever you want. we have a Docker file, which is this Docker file. That is what it's referencing in this context. Then we have env file, which we've created but we've not acted on. We'll do that in a minute. And it depends on db, which is our database. We'll be checking that in a minute as well. And we have the ports, which is 8000 Django default port. Then volumes as well. So the I'm taking the current folder as my volume, specifically because I need this static folder for our media folder as well, static and media folder for our volumes. We're going to configure them to work with nginx as well. Then we have the entry point rather, which is our entry point.sh, which we've made executable in the Docker file already. So immediately the container, before the container spins up, this entry point.sh has to be run, and we can migrate as well and collect static. So for using different database locally, different from the one online in the live server, once we migrate, all migrations should be migrated in the current database online. All right, so this is our database service, and we're using Postgres for it. This is our container name, and we are using these volumes. All right, so we want our database to be persistent. That is the reason we're using volumes. So when we push our codes to the live server, it does not start again. It stores this volume somewhere in your server. All right, and the port is 5432, which is the default Postgres port. And we have the env file as well, which contains all our credentials needed for Postgres. And finally, we have our nginx service, which okay, we'll be configuring it in a minute. It has port 80 and 433, 433 specifically for SSL and 80 for nginx itself. Then restart always. So when it shuts down, something makes it shut down, it always try to restart. Then we have the volumes here as well, which is this folder, which we copied to our code folder in our Docker file. So remember, we copied everything here to our code folder, so we'll be needing that as well. And we also want set bot volumes as well to be persistent for SSL certificate, and these are all the volumes we're mapping as well. So let's proceed. Okay, the next step is to save everything in our .env file. So we have created a .env file already, and we save it. And this is my secret key. You can change it to yours. This is my DB, my Postgres DB, my Postgres user password, debug, and my secret key. Then we are going to set up nginx. All right, create a folder called nginx and create two files, docker file and nginx.conf file. Okay, so in my main project, I will be creating a folder called nginx, and create a docker file there as well. Inside my nginx, new file, docker file, then nginx.conf inside as well. All right, paste the code below in the docker file. So we're trying to configure our nginx now, and we're using nginx latest image, and we are copying. Okay, let me copy what is in this file before I explain. Okay, yeah, so we are copying everything here in the nginx.conf to the default configuration file for nginx. So we're trying to override the default file with our content here, which contains everything we need for our deployment. Then we're exposing port 80, which is the default port for nginx. All right, then our nginx.conf, this is our configuration we need. We are listening to 80, and this is our location. Okay, we mapped our web service and the URL to Django, and we are passing it here as well. So whichever IP address, you don't need to manually do this because we already have a service named web in our Docker Compose. All right, we already have a service named web, and it maps the service for us with the IP to this and attach it to our location. All right, then set the header and everything for that. So the next block in our nginx configuration is for our SSL certificate, which is our let's encrypt. For now, we don't need it. We'll talk about it when we are setting that up. Then we have our static, which the default here in your setting is /static. All right, and this is our alliance /code/static. Remember, we are working with a code folder, right? So anything we need to access it with the code folder. All right, so everything in this our main project is now inside the code folder, and our static as well, which is our static folder, which is this, is inside the code folder as well. Same thing with the media /code/media. All right, so anytime we want to access any directory, we need to start with /code because we've mapped everything inside, and we're using /code in our volumes. We're using code in our volumes as well. So that's it for the nginx. All right, the next step is setting up GitHub actions. So when we push our codes to our repository, in our case we're using GitHub on the main branch as well, some things are triggered. So create a folder called .github, and I should be doing that now. It's still on my main folder. This folder, create another folder called workflows. Okay, new folder rather. So I should delete this. Workflows. And finally, create a file called docker image.yaml. Okay, docker image.yaml. In the your structure should be like this: /github/workflows/docker image.yaml, which is this GitHub workflows and docker image.yaml. All right, so I should paste the following code. Okay, copy. Okay, I will explain this. So the name is docker image. You can give it any name you choose, and on push we have different. Currently I'm using the on push and PRO. So if is a PRO made on my GitHub repo on my main branch, and I push any code on my main branch, it triggers the GitHub actions. There are other things as well that you can do. You can change a branch. You can check documentation for other things you need, but currently for what we need is just to push and PRO, pull request, and then these are the jobs to be executed. All right, this is my build block, and it runs on self-hosted. So what self-hosted means is that it's I can use my own server, which is a DigitalOcean Ubuntu server for it. So if you want to use GitHub's default server, use Ubuntu latest. All right, but I'm not sure you can run Docker on that, because for our projects, for our deployment, we are running Docker, and also we need to deploy it on our own server, which is the reason why using self-hosted and uses actions checkout version 2. Okay, the first thing we need to do is to generate this .env file that is here on our server, which is a self-hosted. All right, I forgot to point out something. Our git ignore, I'm not taking my .env file. Media files, static files, and .env file remains on my laptop. They are not pushed to our GitHub repository. So for security reasons, your env file contains sensitive information which should be left in secret. All right, so you don't need to push that in your production server or push it in your GitHub repository. So I need to generate .env file, and I am using spicy pizza to create that. So it's a package on GitHub repo as well, and these are the things I need in my env file. So notice how the naming pattern is. All right, when creating an env file with GitHub action, you need to start it with env key underscore, and the environmental key name should be added to it. Take for instance, I have my .env file. I have PostgreSDB here. When you come down to here, you see PostgreSDB is attached to env key underscore. Same thing with Postgres user. You can see in my env file it's just Postgres user, but when I'm doing it with you are doing it with GitHub actions, you need to add env key underscore. Take note of everything. All right, so this is a standard, is the pattern, and my file name is .env, of course, and fail on empty is equals to false. This means that when GitHub actions tries to get the secrets from our GitHub and it's not there, the deployment continues. So I advise it to be set to true. You can set it to true when doing yours as well, and we can test that too. So by default, if you don't add it, by default is false. So instead of throwing an error, it just gives it an empty string. All right, so when it's set to false, it does not throw error if your env key is missing. It gives it an empty string. But if your project is a very sensitive project and you want your keys and everything to be there, you need to set it to true. So when it does not find the secrets in your GitHub repository, it throws an error and you have to go and fix that. So this is a good practice to set it to true. Then, so this is our first step on the job, to create the env file, which is this. Then the second step is to build the Docker image. So run docker compose build, then we make migrations. After we've built it already, we make migrations, we migrate, and we collect static. So the essence of this no input is, by default, when you run python manage.py collect static, it asks you if you want to collect static and you type yes. So the essence of this is that it does not ask you, because everything is automatically done and you don't have to input anything. So that's the essence of this no input. All right, so the second step, we build the image, docker compose build. If you are very sensitive on your build, you can leave it with no catch. Docker compose build no catch, so it does not catch anything. It builds everything from scratch. Then make migrations. We are running from the web, our web service, migrate and collect static. All right, then the second build we need is our test. All right, so another important advantage or feature of GitHub Action is that you can run automated tests before deploying to your server. So it's always a good practice to write tests for all your code, and if your test fails, your deployment fails as well. All right, so you don't just deploy a buggy code to the server and your users start complaining that your your project is not working and it fails on live server. So yeah, we have a test block. Notice how everything is under one block. All right, they are all under the jobs block. So we run on self-hosted again because we need it on our own server. It needs build, which is this. So this is the order. Build runs first. When everything has been built, it runs this. All right, and you cannot be running test when your Docker has not been built. All right, so the name is run test, and we have Docker compose run web, which is the service Python manager PyTest, and our test, if it's successful, it continues to the third job, which is deploy. Also, I run on deploy server. I run on self-hosted rather, which is our own server. It needs build and test as well, and this is the only step, deploy. And we are doing Docker compose up. First we create and remove orphans. So in this case, everything is spinning up, and also we're running on the daemon mode, which means it's going to be running on the background. So even if we've closed our terminal or not, it's going to keep on running. So that's it for setting up the workflows. So now we are going to create our repository. Setting up GitHub actions. So create a repository in GitHub and push your code. So this is where all my codes are. I'll create another repository for this project. So I would call it django GitHub action. Okay, django GitHub action, and create a repository for it. So this is a new repository. Step 4, setting up environmental variables with GitHub action. Alright, so in your GitHub repo, go to setting and click on secret and variable. Under the drop down, click on action. So go to settings, secret and variables, and actions. So I want to add my repository secret, which is the things in my .env file. Alright, so click on a new secret. The secret name is PostgresDB, and the secret is my DB. Again, I add Postgres user, which is my user. Again, we have Postgres password, which is my password. We have the bug set to 0, which is false, and we have my secret key, which is Django secret key. I can't remember. Well, you have to put in the main secret key. All right. So that is it for setting up our secrets. So we already have in the actions, we already have these variables 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which we just set. Oh, I forgot something. I forgot to add the set bot email. If you are working with SSL certificates, you need to add the email and the domain name. Alright, so I will add this now. this code at gmail.com, and my email, my set bot domain rather, is scorezone.xyz. So I purchased this domain from KiwiWeb as well. All right. If you don't need SSL certificate, you just want to automate your deployment, you are free to remove this, because my fail on empty is currently set on true. You are free to either remove it or set yours to false. All right. So basically everything in your .env file should be here. 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, I have to set my debug as well. Debug and secret key. So we are referencing them in our project itself. So we have the secret key 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So we have to make sure whatever is in our workflows, environmental variables, secret variables, is the same thing in our .env file, and it's the same thing in our secret as well. So I've added debug, I've added secret key, I've not added my email. So again, if you are not interested in SSL certificate, you can skip this part. Set bot domain. scorezone.xyz. So we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. We have 7 secrets in our repository. We have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 7.env file, and in our Docker image workflows we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So it's a good practice to always leave it the way it is, so you don't start giving yourself issues. So we've set up GitHub actions. We've added our secrets. So we're going to set up our runner with our Ubuntu server. So GitHub actions is connected to our server. All right, this is my server and it's empty, there is nothing here. So first of all, this is my domain name, scorezone.xyz, and there is nothing here as well. We're going to upload our project there. It has been connected to our droplet already, which is this. All right, so let's proceed. Setting up runners. So we have to connect GitHub runner to our Ubuntu server, so that when there's a push on our main branch, deployment can be automated. On the settings page, click on actions on the sidebar and click on runners in the drop down. So actions, not webhook, actions and runners. So we have no runner, and we would want to have a new self-hosted runner. So I'm on Linux currently, and we have to follow these instructions. All right, so I'm going to create a folder here, paste. Okay, let me run it side by side. Okay, I copy this. Okay, good. Okay, then we echo this paste again. So we just have to basically follow the instructions, and you can see it's okay. Then we have to extract the zipped file. So this is the first part of setting up the runner. We have to download it, and the next part is configuring it. As you are copying and paste, be noticing the output, so you should know when you have an error. All right, so let me expand this so that I can see. Enter the name of the runner group, press enter to default, press enter. So I want to use enter for everything, so you can as well write what you want to write, but I want everything to be the default values. So I press enter and the default is work, and it has been saved. All right. So if we try to see what is in this our current working directory ls, we'll see everything has been created. All right, let me minimize this again, and finally we do run.sh. Let me expand the window as well and paste. So it has been successfully connected to GitHub. You might face an error. All right, let's say I want to run /run.sh, and if you are facing this error, must not run interactively with sudo. This is because GitHub Action does not expect you to run this with your root user. So to bypass this, you need to add this command to whatever you are doing. All right, so if probably you might get this error when you are running the config.sh command. When you are running this command, when you are configuring, you might get the error. You might get it when you run this command. That is the last step, ./run.sh. So what you need to do is just to attach this to whichever command you are running. All right, where's the block? All right, you just need to attach this run_allow_run as root equals to true to the command. So if I am running ./run.sh, this is how it should be. All right, as you can see, I've connected it to GitHub. And if you're running this command, this configure, let me close it, paste it. I've run this command already, so there is no need. runner_allow_run as root equals true and space, then you run the command. But I've run it, so there's no need to reconfigure it again. All right, so that's it for facing this error. Always add this to the command so that it can allow you to run the script as a root user. Git init, git add, git commit, sorry, first commit. Then copy my branch. So I am using SSH, so I don't need to bother about anything, and I should be pushing to my main branch. Okay, so let's wait and see. And now I've pushed to my branch, so if I should refresh to the main branch, I can see my code here. And all right, so if we should click on our runners, we can see that it's running already. All right, and we can monitor it from here. You can see the details. the job was set up successful. We're able to create our env file successfully. We ran checkout. Okay, sorry, we're able to build the plugin, which is spicy pizza for env file. What a funny name. We have the .env file as well that has been generated, and we have our Docker image that has been built. As you can monitor the logs from here, and it's built successfully and completed. So you might have errors sometimes, and you have to come here and check where your issue is coming from. All right, so if I should go back to my terminal, I can see everything has been successfully built, and I have to cut it, and let's see. ls. If we should go to our work folder, remember our work folder was the default folder that we pasted. ls, go to django github action. ls, go to django github action again. ls, we can see everything. We have scores1.xyz http. Scores1.xyz, you should see is empty, and if I should paste a book, book, put this code, screenshots, testing, and if I should click on submit, you can see it is submitted and we have a new book. So our deployment is successful, everything is working fine. If you're having issues, you can always ask, and I will be readily available to assist if your deployment is not successful. So follow the steps, and the code will be available on GitHub as well, so you can follow along. So now our deployment is successful, admin is working fine, static files are working, media files are working, thanks to our configuration in our nginx. So this is the block. We are able to set our static URL, which is this, and if you remember, this URL is coming from our settings file. All right,
so ideally GitHub keeps waiting for job because our interactive terminal is opened and run.sh command is being executed. So if we should exit our interactive terminal and make a push to GitHub, it does not trigger because it has been disconnected. So each time you close your terminal and leave your server, it gets disconnected, and the only time to connect it back is logging to your server and opening your interactive terminal and running the run.sh command. But we do not want that, right? We want our server to always be connected to GitHub, so that when we make a push, we do not have to always go to our interactive terminal and keep on running the run.sh command. So what we want to do now is to make the run.sh command keep on running. Alright, so whenever we close our interactive terminal, whenever we exit our server, it keeps on running and waiting for jobs. Alright, so we do not have to always be logged in with SSH to keep it running. So we'll do that now.
so we would use this command, and we are adding this command because we are avoiding that error. So if you are using another user in your terminal, you're not running it as a root user, it's fine, you can decide to run the command directly. So we are going to be using the no hop command, which is this. All right, so I'll paste it, and sorry, I have to cd to my actions. Right, let's clear this out and paste it so you can see. And here's my actions. Okay, good. So I will just make a quick push. Keep on adding that. Let's see if our runner picks it. Okay, it does. And good, it has picked it up already. So I can decide to close the terminal, and it's still going to keep on building. All right, so with this command, with the no hop command, we've been able to make the run.sh script running in daemon mode, so we don't need to always open our terminal. We can peacefully push our code to GitHub and be rest assured that it will be built. All right, so you would always want to monitor your logs here to be sure that everything was actually completed. So we can see build has been successful. It's running test as well, and it has been successful, and we want to deploy, which is in progress already. So that's it for running your run.sh commands to keep on listening for jobs even when you are not in the interactive terminal. All right, we want to configure SSL certificates so that our site can be secure. Currently it's showing not secure, so if you just wanted the deployment, you are good to go. But if you have your domain name and you want to add a certificate to this, it's actually free. You just need to configure it with setbot on your server. All right, so the reason the images are not showing is because I'm using a SQLite 3 database. And okay, let's try some. The first thing we need to do is to step 7 is to add it to our service, right, in our docker compose YAML file. Okay, we add it here. We have the setbot service. All right, we have the image setbot/setbot, and we have the volumes. So we're going to be using the volumes to store the SSL certificate file, and we are going to be accessing it in Nginx as well. So that is the reason Nginx and setbot have to share the same volume. All right, because setting up the setbot, the certificate is stored in our web root, which is here, and when it's stored, Nginx also needs to access the setbot. So when you enter https/, it needs to, through the configuration in our nginx.conf, which we'll be adding now, it needs to access where the setbot is stored. All right, so the next step is to add this block to our nginx.configuration file, which is here. So pasting it here, we're going to be listening to 440 and SSL. You can as well remove this. I think it's depreciated. Yeah, so this is where the SS certificate is stored, and this is where the key is stored as well. My domain name is scorezone.syz, so you should replace this with your domain name, the domain name you want your SSL certificate for. All right, you can as well, so the server name is storezone.xyz, also www.storezone.xyz. so you can both accept the naked domain or with www. And we had other blocks that have been in here, we had it down here. All right, so we need this as well here, because so basically when we run the website, which is scorezone.xyz without the insecure, this is the block of code it goes to. All right, so it has been here, our static CDN and everything has been here. So if our SSL certificate is secured and we are using HTTPS, it goes to this block of code. This is our server block. right? Because listen to 443 and SSL, but just insecure HTTP is just listen to AT and it goes here. All right, so we need this here and we need it here as well. So both HTTP and HTTPS needs this block. This is our location block, because when set bot build and it runs this command, it's we have the email which we stored in our .env file, which is already in our, this is my email address, which is already in our repository secrets. All right, and the domain name as well, which is in our env file too, scorezone.xyz. all right, so you can as well hard code it if you don't want to use the secrets. It's your choice, but using secret is always a very good practice. So yes, so when it runs this command, setbot tries to create a file. It tries to create the certificate through this URL. All right, so if this URL is not there, it would not work, and this is the volume it creates it to. Remember, our Nginx give access to what is entering our server and what is going out of our server. So if setbot tries to create the certificate through this endpoint, through this through this part, we have to give it the root access of this. All right, so it creates it there for us. And we've not configured the certificate yet, so it's using HTTP, which is the insecure. So that is the reason this block has to be here. All right, so that is it, and this is the block we need for HTTPS. So basically, if you should notice, media, static, everything down here is the same with everything here, right? Because they are listening to two different blocks. All right, this is listening to just HTTP and it has to save everything here, and this is listening to HTTPS as well. It has to save everything here. So
configuring SSL certificate is a very tricky one and can really cause you headaches. So what we're going to do is that we're going to comment this out first, and we're going to make sure the certificate runs fine first, meaning this will have to work fine, and we'll check our Docker Compose logs to be sure of that. Then we finally add this and update our server again. All right, so this command needs to be run first to generate the certificate, which is going to be dependent on this. And when the certificate is done, this block here is to redirect our HTTPS certificates to work here. All right, so that's what we're going to do now. Everything has been set up. We just need to push to github. Okay, git commits SSL SSL block commented out, and git push origin. All right, so we push to our repo and we have to monitor it as well. All right, so we monitor it and we have to be sure that it builds. Ideally, if something is wrong and setbot fails to build, our Nginx is still going to be running. Okay, so it's not going to give us any issues. So that's the reason we need to comment this out first. All right, so when it's deployed, we're going to check again to make sure that the website is still up, completed, and we have to be sure our website is up. Okay, it's still up, and we have to check our Docker Compose, Docker PS, to be sure that all containers are running fine as well. And we'll check our Docker Compose logs to be sure Everything was successfully built. Okay, good. So yeah, the certificate was successful. All right, you can see it in your logs. So if you're having any issues, always run your Docker Compose logs to know what the issue is. All right, so now it has been successful. I will add this block back to, we will comment it back and to be added to our Nginx configuration. So ideally, when HTTP insecure connection comes, it comes through this block, which is port 80. But when HTTPS, which is a secured connection, comes, it comes through this server block. All right, so it has been added, and I will push to GitHub again and make sure it builds, and would automatically HTTPS should be added. All right, so let's do that. Git add, git commit, block added, and git push origin. So let it push and let us wait. Okay, so we have to go back to our actions to confirm it's working fine. All right, it's building, so fingers crossed. All right, so the deploy has been successful, and we will need to go back to our terminal to check our logs again. Okay, so it was successful again, and let's refresh the insecure. Okay, insecure is working fine, so let's add HTTPS, and we can see everything is working fine. So we successfully installed our set bot on our server. All right, so you can as well push your command, you can as well push your code to GitHub, and everything is going to be working fine. All right, so remember, first of all, your SSL block needs to be commented out, right? So when you push your code to GitHub, make sure everything is there, but your SSL block needs to be commented out. All right, and once you've pushed your code to GitHub, monitor your logs in your Docker Compose to be sure that the certificate was created. If there's an error, it should give you an error, and it should tell you why your certificate was not created. All right, so the essence of that, if your certificate is not created and you add this block, Nginx is not going to start because these keys are missing. All right, so it's going to destroy your Nginx configuration, and your server is going to be down. So that is the reason you need to be sure your certificate was created, and once it's created, you can add this code back to your Nginx configuration and push to GitHub. So that is how we are able to configure our CI/CD pipeline using GitHub Actions, Docker Compose, and using our Ubuntu server gotten from DigitalOcean. So thank you guys, and see you.